Behind the Shades.
My name is Melanie, and I've been a counselor and therapist for, oh, don't date me, but probably over 25 years plus, because I took a 10-year hiatus. At the ripe age of, believe it or not, 15, I got married, which is unheard of now, I would think, but I did. And at the age of 20, oh, I'm going to say 24, I got interested in spiritual and personal development and growth, like what's going on. And it just started a whole series of becoming a master hypnotist, hypnotherapist, and understanding the mind and the unconscious mind. From there, I felt I learned everything about the mind, how it works. And then I spent 10 years studying under Chuck Spezzano's courses and stuff, where I was a senior group leader, working all with the emotions and how it affects our body and how the mind plays into the emotions affects the mind. And I spent 15 years doing that. From there, I ended up going to India and spent 10 years in India because I said, okay, I've got all this stuff all right. And now I want to learn more about who am I? And there's got to be more than to this. In my mind, it's like I had fixed everything I had fixed, but there was something more. And that took me to India, where I spent 10 years self-inquiry meditation and as a spiritual guide, and took groups to India. And then I also took my yoga teacher training. So I did that. So I'm pretty holistic. I've also got 2 years of level 2 somatic training. I've got so many things, I guess I don't know how to count them all, but it was just a well-rounded, really totally interested in why we do what we do and how things work out and where are we the creators in our life and where are we messing up. And that took me with my own history of relationships to now I have went online and I'm working with women. I have a passion working for women, mostly because I'm a woman. I've also worked with a lot of men, but I think it's just in our times when it comes to relationships and stuff, I think I'm not being prejudiced, but I think women suffer most economically, when a relationship fails and if they have family and children. And because I have children and grandchildren, I believe that when we don't have it right as a woman, we drag our children into this, and then our children are left to go see the counselors and the therapists. And it was kind of like, maybe if we can get this right and help this, we can stop this perpetuating down the line. And the apple doesn't fall from the tree, far from the tree is the way I believe it. And having children of my own, I also have a real belief that what I don't heal, my children have to heal. So what I've healed, it frees my children.
I know
So
for me, I had to learn so much about myself when it came to dating. And one of the pitfalls for me as I dated, especially in my 20s, was I felt I wasn't worthy because I had this idea of what a successful relationship was. I won't say perfect because perfect is like Disney, right? Put
sure.
on the glass slipper, she wakes up and we ride off, and everyone who hated us, they all of a sudden magically become our best friends and best
Yeah.
men at the wedding, right? But when I realized that I had to do more to get more, that's where I had to accept from an ego perspective that, hey, Train, as good looking as you may think you are, as successful as you may think you are, you may not still be good enough because there's other aspects of relationships that you need to bring to the table. So that's how I started my journey into understanding relationships, understanding women, and trying to be as successful as possible. And one of the points you raised, which I loved, was that women, at least here in Canada, based on the numbers, as they get older, post a divorce, post a long term relationship, they begin to suffer financially, right? Because
Oh, they
you begin
do.
to see that, right? But I
Yeah.
think what some people may confuse is that in the immediate aftermath of a divorce, yes, most times women get alimony, they get things of that nature. So they're okay a few years afterwards. But it's like the 5 years, the 10 years,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
15 years. I think that's what people don't see. So speak to us about that and how we can clarify maybe some of the myth of that when a woman gets divorced, she's living this high life, she's rich, she goes and gets a pool boy as her boyfriend, and she lives happily ever after. So let's speak about that a bit.
Well, statistically, and I do have the statistics, but they're not on the top of my head right now. I think it's well over 47%. This was the US statistics that live in poverty. Women with children actually live in poverty. Don't forget, women generally, and this is no prejudice against men, because I now have an amazing son-in-law and my own son, which I've raised to the point where he's looking after the kids and partaking in all of that. But statistically, women are the caregivers. And so they miss work. Okay. They cannot necessarily go to work. They're in charge of the babysitters and everything else. So their finances, even though it looks like this is for general population, they are living in poverty. Women are, who have children to raise. If you're single, it's not a problem per se, but when it comes under when you have children, that's where the poverty comes. Because when a child gets sick, who stays home? If she's the only caregiver and she's there, she stays home. She misses work. So in the long run, it just adds up and it's hard. And just generally speaking, also, is women are lower paid than men. That's just a given. That has been proven over and over again. So already they have a disadvantage. But as a caregiver, because they're primary caregivers, their responsibility is to the children. And so that there's babysitter. If a babysitter can't come into play, if the daycare closes, just one of my nieces, there was pink eye going around and the daycare closed. So what does she do? She can't, she has to stay home. So there's loss of work. There's also sometimes what happens, employers don't want her to stay on because she's either missing too much work if the child is sick a lot. So that just leads into the poverty as well. So I think, let alone poverty, there's just the struggle of being a single woman. And then what I have found in my work is when a woman is with children and she's single, it's almost like the hardship is already there and she's more prone to choose a relationship that is not really healthy and good for her because it's an escape for her. And that's her saving grace. That's her like, oh, I just need some help and I need some support. So she's hungry. So she'll choose whatever she can get, in a sense. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I've been there myself. Like until you're full, can you really make a good choice of what you're going to take? And when a woman is empty and she's exhausted and she's tired, and I mean, all of these things, someone comes in, and please, I'm not generalizing like all the women, but I'm just sort of saying they become more needy, more willing to accept something that is not going to work because, they've got financial support, they've got the ease. It just gives them some kind of relief. Yeah.
One of the best examples I could give to that is if you come out of a serious relationship or long-term relationship and it ends and you truly believe you've given your all, like you've given your best version of this man, your best version of this woman. And now that it's ended for whatever the reasons, right? It could be that you two have grown apart. It could be that
Sure.
the ideals that you had 5 years ago is not the same as today. Simple,
Yeah.
right? Now you're in a situation where you're older, you have more responsibilities if there's children involved, right?
Yeah.
Those are mouths to feed and things of that nature. So you have a choice to make. Either you're going to do it all on your own, which is quite difficult,
Yes.
or you may try to do it with someone that at least can supplement what you're offering, meaning that if you're earning X amount of income and you need additional income, that person may be that, and that may be all that you're looking for. And I think one of the struggles that women have is they fall into the trap, as you mentioned, where they're like, okay, I just can't do this on my own. This person maybe is not the best of person, but there's someone that can at least give me something. Is that some of the struggles that maybe women have?
Very much so. I'm sort of also talking on the really behind the shades, as you say, is the more deeper where they get into really dysfunctional relationships where they might choose someone who's an addictive behavior and the children got to live with this, or someone who is really unkind, is, getting away with a lot of stuff. And there's a desperation. At least they're getting a roof on my head. But let's go to the one that says, hey, look, I'm willing to come into your family and I'm willing to support you. And I'm a kind and loving person. I think if there's some kind of love, we still are role models to our children, and if there's no real connection, I think our children will grow up not knowing what a connection is. And then so they go out to a relationship and they don't necessarily know what real connection is. Instead of it's like, it's a space where I do this for this. They don't have the real connection. Now, a lot of people manage that for a while. They need, they go into relationships for purpose. But I think sometimes that's where they fade. When the purpose is over with, when the children are gone, where's the connection? And that's when it falls apart. I'm talking about healing ourselves and looking at this whole thing as a long-term relationship. So you're going beyond just the purpose, like you'll do all this with me, but when you can't do this, where's the connection? Where's the intimacy? Where's the connection? So that's the way I like to look at it. But you're right. I think every relationship starts in with a purpose, but I like to go further than that because that's what kids will end up feeling, is this is just their purpose. Yeah.
For me to heal, I had to take time away from the dating market.
Yeah.
If I had children, I don't think I would have the ability to take time away because there's always that reminder. There's always the presence of the other person. There's always, for a lot of people, that comparison. Like if you and I were married and we divorced, right?
Yeah.
And we share children, and when I drop off the children to you, I see you and this good looking man that you're dating. And if I'm the type of person where I'm just not able to make relationships work, but I see you making it work, then it's a constant reminder of that I haven't succeeded in a way that you have exceeded.
Yeah.
So how do we help women in that case who are experiencing that understand that it's okay to take a break from the dating market, take care of your children, heal yourself, as you mentioned, and then when you're able to provide a full healed version of yourself, then you can get back into the dating market and do so.
I don't think it's okay to take a break. I think it's necessary to take a break. I think you need to take a break. I think it is so important to take a break, to heal yourself. I think everyone goes into a relationship wanting it to be everlasting. I don't know of anyone who goes into a relationship thinking, oh boy, I can have a divorce later on. I don't think anyone does. They want it everlasting. And regardless whether it's through a divorce or a death, there is huge loss and grief, even when the partner is not the right partner. There's the death of the dream, the death of the hope, the death of what you actually strive to get. So I think it's super necessary to stop and to do your work so you get it right. And I think so many people don't have the role models, are uneducated about what they are playing in a part in, what they are doing, and how they can change it. So no, I don't think it's okay. I think it's necessary. I think in order to have a true, honest, authentic relationship, that this is so important. And that's my stand.
I 100% agree with you. I'm the type of person that take a step away and don't even log into the dating apps because it's so easy, right? Like I look at some of my female friends and many of them are divorced. Some have had relationships, some haven't, and some are just trying to make it work. And when they're bored or when they're looking for their fix, as they call it these days, they'll just go on the dating apps and just swipe, right? And I ask them the question, this person that you're going on this date with, do you see a future with them? They will say no. And then my follow-up question, probably the same question you asked, then why are you entertaining this person? And they're like, Terrain, it's Christmas. It's cold outside. I'm bored. I'm lonely. It's been 6 months since I did it.
Yeah.
Help a girl out, right? How do you speak to that demographic that they don't necessarily miss the lifestyle or the social value of being in a relationship? They just miss not having a bed that is cold night after night after night.
I think this has been a mystery to me. this has been an absolute mystery to me is, there's the old saying is like, you got to be whole first. And a relationship is actually the cherry on top. I really firmly believe that. Be whole. And that's where sort of my spiritual training in India did, is being able to meditate. I used to meditate in the caves for like 10 hours a day as just sitting with myself. And when you can learn to sit with yourself and you can be with yourself, there's something changes within you and you become a really, it's like you're satisfied, you're whole, you know who you are. There's something that shifts. And you don't need, I don't want anyone to have to need a relationship to fulfill them, to be that extra, to give something inside. It's just an indication that you're not whole. I want you to be whole. And when you're whole, then you can date. And then you can be so much more choosing, as like it's the icing on the cake. My cake is full. you know it's a mystery to me. I can say it over and over again. You really need to do this work. I cannot stress it enough, because you're just wasting your time, and time goes by too fast. And you can see relationships go from, so much investment, oh, well, we'll live together, it'll be a year, but you've got furniture you've invested, you've got an apartment you've invested, and next thing you know, oh, it's split up in a year later, and now you've got to do this whole thing. It just, in today's time, it's just like, get it right. So I don't know. It's a mystery to me. I can keep saying it 1,000 times, but yeah, women, and men, like, do your work. Really do your work. Get inside and just be full inside. Know who
You
you
know,
are.
Melanie, they're trying to have the cherry on top, the cake, and eat it too. They're trying to get it all out the way, because there's that saying, right? The best way to get over someone is to get under someone, right? Sex is such, like, for so a lot of people, it's become like alcohol, where I've had a rough day, so I'm just gonna be intimate with someone and forget my issues until you have the post, as I call it, you have the post nut clarity, meaning that
Yeah.
after you've climaxed, after you've
Yeah.
orgasm, you look at the person, you're like, oh, that was a mistake. But next week you're gonna repeat that mistake,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there's two things that I love to say. I call it, this is for the men, pre-nut delusion, which is, as you're getting ramped up, you're like, okay, she's nice and she's talking to me this way, and
Yeah.
I know that it's not going to go anywhere, but you've built it up in your mind, right? Similar to
Sure.
a lot of women who are more nurturing in their
Yeah.
personality, who's more wants to be around people, right? Who's more social, where a man can be by himself and still do his thing. Now you build that up and you engage in something that isn't really going to go anywhere, something that could be unhealthy. And then after it's done, the post nut clarity, you're like, what the hell did I do? I'm
Yeah.
still going to be alone. This house is still as empty as it was. I still don't have any prospects in my dating roster, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm bringing all these different type of men around my kids, or I'm bringing all these different type of women around my kids.
Yeah.
What kind of example am I setting for them? Are these
Yeah.
some of the conversations that you have with the women that you're assisting with?
I do. And also there's another side to it too. Is a lot of people who get together sexually are actually avoiding intimacy. They don't think it's not going to turn out. They're trying to get to third base before doing all the work and discovering that this person is not the person that they want to be with. So there's a way of getting to third base real quick. Well, let's just have sex and we'll call that intimacy. And then all the falseness and all the illusion is built around. Because getting to know someone in a real way, you're going to have boundaries. You're going to say what you want, what you need. But it's just like, I just want to get to third base. I don't want to have to go through that work. For a lot of people, it's really hard for them to say, no, you're not quite working out for me. They just want to get that place right there. So it's a false sense of intimacy. And so a lot of people really think that this is what creates the intimacy. Not that they don't think it's going to last. I think they actually go in, a lot do, thinking, oh, this is going to tie the knot. I don't have to do any of the steps to get there. This just ties it. I'm done. Whew. Okay, now let's just play fantasy world. And of course, it tumbles down.
So are they using intimacy in a way to temporarily heal themselves from what they're experiencing?
No, I would say they're using it's a false sense of intimacy. Okay, real intimacy is I don't think sex is intimacy. I like to look at sex as an expression of the intimacy that you already have. Okay, when you already are intimate with someone and then an act of love is actually making love. Okay, you don't have sex to get love. That's the way I look at it. And that's how I would like to teach the women is sort of like, and the men too, if they would get that too, is that they're vulnerable, that they're open, and it's an expression of that love is so different than just body to body having sex. So
It's
different.
more than, yeah, it's more than just a rumble in the jungle,
Exactly. Exactly. And
right?
there's nothing wrong
It's
with that too, if you already have that. But I'm just saying a lot of it's falsified. A lot of women think, and I'm not just going to say women, I'm going to say men too, but being a woman, okay, and talking and working with a lot of women, think that it's getting to third bay real quick, and all of a sudden, we've had sex, we're in love. And then outcome, unbeknownst to the man, is all the conditions that are met. It's like, holy smokes, now I'm supposed to do this, I'm supposed to do that, and vice versa. All the rules come in. And that's that part of the unconscious, because we have an unconscious idea of what we've seen in relationship. And once a couple comes together, it's like now we're married. All of a sudden, we take on these roles that you never saw. Now we're boyfriend, girlfriend. So our roles unconsciously come in with the titles that we give ourselves. Now that we've made love, whoa, here comes all the unconscious expectations and the ways that it's supposed to be.
I spoke to a sexual coach, not for me, everyone who's watching. Um, but, and she works with women and men. And she made the joke that a lot of women, after they've had a good night of passion, they feel like they're married to these men, right? And I look back at some of the women that I've dated, and they did exactly what you said. They tried to resolve whatever conflict there was through
Yeah.
sexual means.
Yeah.
And it made them feel empowered for that night, 2 nights, whatever the
Exactly.
case is. But
Yeah.
then afterwards, when big bad terrain will come around and say, hey, do you want to talk about the problem that we had last week? It's always, well, and then they try to bring sexual conversations again or try to
Yeah.
be intimate or false sense of intimacy. So how can we define what healthy intimacy looks like versus what false intimacy looks like?
I would say it is being authentic, absolutely real. It's being honest, even if your partner doesn't want to hear what you have to say. Of course, there's always the ways to say it, but I think it's about being transparent, about being authentic by being able to share your journey. Where even though you can be in the same room together, you're sharing, oh, when this happens, I feel this. Like there's real communication going on. Oh, when you do this, this makes me feel. How can we work through this? Or however it be that you're totally open and transparent. That's what I'm saying is true intimacy. But you have to be intimate with yourself first. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you're feeling, and you have to be able to express what you're feeling. So a lot of people don't even know what they're feeling until it gets so big. So it has to get so big. Okay, now I'm angry. But all along there was this rumble but they're not even aware of it. So you have to become intimate with yourself. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's going on in my body? And that's where all my yoga teacher training and everything else came into, is like, what's happening inside? Become intimate with yourself. How am I responding to this? How am I reacting to this? And then I can share this with my partner, unreserved. Okay, feeling totally safe to do so. To me, that is the ultimate intimacy. When you've got a partner in crime, you're willing to share your journey. You're willing to share all your stuff. It's but you're taking responsibility for it. I also don't want to make sure you don't want to share all your stuff and just vomit it on them, and it's like there's a whole bunch that goes into that. But when you're willing to share that in a real I'm taking responsibility for what I'm feeling. I'm not blaming you for what I'm feeling. I'm just sharing you what's going on. That to me is absolute intimacy. Yeah.
So, what would we do if that type of intimacy is one sided, meaning that it's me, I'm trying to have that type of intimacy, but the person is not receptive.
Then get out. Or um, I think, gosh, how would you answer that? Oh, I would almost say, I don't think it can, if you're intimate with yourself, you already know that. Does that make sense? You would already know that your partner's not there. And then you got to ask yourself, why do I want to be in a relationship where my partner is not there? Now, there's always a time, are they open to getting there? There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Are you open to getting there? And then you say, well, if they are, and each step is you find some progress in that way. But if it doesn't get there, then the first intimacy comes with yourself. I'm feeling this. I'm aware. Do I want to keep with this, or what do I want? What do I need? And that's just where you have to make those choices. And hopefully you've got a partner. And if they can't be there, but they want their relationship, they're willing to do the work themselves.
I like that, especially where I think sometimes we think intimacy is like a job. It's my responsibility to get you to be intimate with me.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Versus, let's have a conversation. Okay, Melanie, this is what intimacy looks like to me. How does it look like to you? And then when you answer that, you can meet a middle ground, because it could be that I find intimacy is part of it is we sit together, we watch a movie as we're holding each other. We're
Sure,
creating an intimate atmosphere, right? And then it may lead to wherever it leads. To
sure.
some other people, it's more so, okay, Sunday, 7 p.m., we're going to be intimate. Are you ready?
And for some people that might work. I mean, who's to judge? I think that's where you have to know yourself and be that vulnerable to express, this is what I need and this is what worked for me. There's no judging here.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Because what works for me may not work for you, and what works for the both of us may not work for someone else. Because the common goal is that it works in a healthy way. And I think sometimes we miss that point. We're like, okay, it works, but are you happy? No, but it works. Okay. Does it work? Yes, but how do you feel afterwards? Well, Train, I don't feel right. I don't feel good. And these are
Mhm.
unhealthy ways. Although it works, these are unhealthy ways. What are some of the steps that you take with the women that you work with to, one, identify what is healthy and what is unhealthy, and to move forward from it?
I think healthy is, that's a hard one, because sometimes I can see that it's not healthy for them, but I'm standing from my views as what's healthy for me. So I think I guide them more inside. And I think everybody knows, if they're willing to get honest, and that's where the work comes in, is what really works for you. What are you thriving in? What feeds you? What fuels you? Okay. Like, I mean, just take it as an external thing. I love to go camping and hiking and doing all that kind of stuff. I thrive out in the bush. I love being out there. There are others that say, I'm not going out there. I don't want to sleep in a tent. I don't want to do this kind of stuff. So it's not about an external validation of this is what's healthy for you. I think inside we have what we know, but it's accessing that and it's getting honest, because I think that's where all the other stuff comes down on us, what we think we should do, what we think is right, what we think we deserve, what we think we're entitled to, what we think everybody else is doing, you know? And I think we got to get out of all that. And for me, I work with women, and it's driving them inside, getting them inside, because I really firmly believe all the answers are inside of ourselves if we would just listen. But we're so busy listening to so much other stuff. Sometimes we don't even know how to listen to ourselves, except for those moments that come up when we do something and we look back and say, "Oh, I knew that. I should have listened to myself." And that's where I have learned, the more we do that, the better we get at it, instead of in hindsight. I knew that. I mean, it was always there, but we just disregard. We got a train to catch. We got something else to do. We got something else to do, and we're not going to, we got an agenda. We've got a bill to pay. We've got, this guy's cute. I'm not listening to myself, like, and that's where we've just been taught or learned not to listen to ourselves. We're so externally based, rather than internally. And I think our eyes and we have to have one eye in within ourselves and one eye out here. How am I in relationship to this? And when we really do that, there's an intuitive knowing. No, not this one. I mean, you get to know this real fast. Oh, this one, maybe potential. Nope, going walking away. Or yeah, this one here. And I think we absolutely know if we're willing to really listen to ourselves. So there's a big difference between we think we know, which is in our head, and all the, stuff that's been stuffed in there, and all the rules and all the belief systems and everything else. And that's where I work with women, is getting all that caca out, just tossing it out and coming down far deeper, where there's just this amazing awareness that you don't know how but you know. It's just this, that's when miracles start happening. You just get this sense, and we've all had that, where it's like, just turn left and, oh yeah, this is great. And this is where life starts to become magical. This is where you just listening, and you're so, it's just amazing. That's all I can tell you. It's absolutely amazing. And you go, yes, I got that one right. That was perfect, and it plays in everything in our life, not just in, finding a partner or choosing the right partner and doing that. It plays in so many things. It's the right person that you meet that helps you to do this, or you do that, or you turn around a corner and, hey, this is exactly what I was looking for, but you didn't know why, but your intuition just told you walk around the corner. But you don't get that if you're too busy listening to everything outside of yourself instead of in here, truthfully. That's what I can say to that one.
What do you believe are some of the commonalities that's preventing us from listening internally, but being so persistent and so busy listening to everything outside of ourselves?
Fear. I think it's absolute fear. And I think as children, we had that ability. I think we were very sentient beings, and we were very aware of going on around us. But it's like a child can say something and a parent will say, don't say that, or you shouldn't do that. Or we begin, because we need to be loved and we need to survive, we begin to shut out our thoughts and our feelings on our instantaneous, don't talk to a stranger, don't do this. And I realize there's necessity to that, but I wish parents could say, don't talk to the stranger, don't do this, but I want you to know listening to your gut is really important, but we don't get that. So I think we've always had it, but we've just been taught not to listen to ourselves, or it's not good enough, or it's not somebody else's idea, and that stifles all of those gifts that we have that may not fit into the family expectation or something like that. So I think it starts at a really young age. And that's where I think it's super important that when we do this work, we're giving that gift to our kids. I know for myself, I've firmly believed, I said at the age of 40, okay, that I have listened to everything else. And at 40, I said, no matter what, I was going to listen to myself. And if myself told me to walk out in the middle of the traffic, I says I was going to do it. No, I mean, seriously, this is what I said to myself, because I'd had it. And with all the teachings that I had done in India, I wanted to know if this was true or not. I really wanted to know. I'm not just one to believe something. I want to know if it's true. And so I made that promise. And that was something that changed my life, like no matter what. And it was not easy, because it meant trusting myself at such a deep level, even when my mind was saying, oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. But it wasn't myself that was saying, it was at times it would have been my mother's fear, or it would have been my father's expectation, or just somebody else's, or my sister's, or somebody else I was close to, like, oh, you shouldn't do that. And I really learned to just risk. And the thing that drove me to it was I wanted to know the truth. Is what everybody's saying out there, those spiritual leaders and all those ones that were saying, trust yourself, is this true? I wanted to know for myself, is it true? I didn't want to believe in it. I wanted to know it. And I think you don't get that until you absolutely know it. Do you have the right to absolutely say it? Otherwise it's just a buzzword, believe in yourself. Yeah, right. When you've got all this other stuff coming in and all this fear coming in, and, even when it comes to relationships, and, friends will say, oh, you should really leave this relationship. It's not good, or your inner gut says, this is not healthy. I need to go. But people are saying, you need to stay. What about the kids? What about this? What about that? And yeah, so trust in yourself. And I think it's fear. I don't think we've been taught, and I don't think we've been guided to that. And I don't believe that there's a lot of people who are actually doing it. I think it's changing, maybe more so, but I don't think there's a lot. I don't. I really don't think there's a lot that are willing to really listen to themselves. And you hear the buzz, listen to your heart, But I'll tell you, until you know yourself, your heart can be super confusing too. Because our heart's full of other things. It gets mixed up between your head and everything else. So that's the work I do, as I try to untangle all this caca. It's just a mess, and get to the truth. So my
I
partner says I'm a
dated.
pit. Yeah.
No,
What's
go ahead.
that?
Go ahead.
I
No,
said
go
my
ahead.
partner
Finish.
always says I'm a pit bull for the truth. So does my family. They hate it, but they love it. My brother will call me up and he says, "Okay, I need to know something, but be kind to me." And I said, "Why do you do this?" And he says, "Because I know you'll give me the truth." So but I think the truth is hard for people, like, and even to do it from themselves, because it just upsets everything, but it's also can open up so many doors.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think, especially if the truth is an ugly reminder of how maybe incomplete or how inefficient or ineffective that you are at that point in your life. I remember someone, she was divorced and she felt that she did everything right and things like that, which on the surface she did, because when it ended because the husband stepped outside of the marriage, which sometimes does
Sure.
happen. And she said, Terrain, I'm not going to be vulnerable or open my heart to anyone again. And she didn't realize how damaging that was to the next person, because the next person is getting an incomplete woman. The next person is getting a woman who's not going to be vulnerable in her emotions, not vulnerable in her thoughts, who's not going to be able to indulge in any emotional responses in the relationship. And I phrase it in a way saying that, do you feel it's appropriate that your next partner pays for the sins of your failed marriage?
Hmm. Hmm.
She said no, but, and anytime someone says no, but, they're going to discount what they said before that. So she said, no, but this, and this happened to me. I'm like, yes, all that happened to you and all that was very tragic, but that wasn't because of the person that you're going to get with next. That's in
Yeah.
your past. The only time we bring luggage anywhere is when we're going on vacation. And even then, we make sure that it's luggage that we want to bring,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
something that we are trying to run away from. You don't want your past to be your prison. How do you help the women overcome that aspect, as well as they're trying to not be triggered, as we discussed
Yeah.
earlier,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well as to make sure that whatever they're getting is a mirror of themselves and they're getting something that is healthy?
Sure. I don't encourage women to open their heart for another person. Okay. I encourage them to open their heart for themselves, because that's where joy is, and that's where love is, and that's where life is. What they're doing, in my mind, is that they are giving the power to someone else out there. Okay, because what they did or did not do, and it's almost like a punishment. If you just try to switch it around, because of what you did, I'm going to close my heart. So it's a punishment, but in essence, they're punishing themselves. Okay. So I say, no, 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 no. Your heart is your heart. You don't give that power. Who are you? First of all, you're not God. Let go of what that person did. Who are you to punish them? It's kind of like a child, and I remember, growing up, and my dad, we grew up quite poor, right? And very once in a blue moon, probably once a year or something, my dad said if we were really good, that he would get us an ice cream. And in those days, it was like 5 cents for an ice cream cone, right? But we would be so excited. But then something would happen, and us kids were fighting in the back of the car or whatever the thing was going on. And then he'd get mad. And then it was like, no, I don't want an ice cream. But I really wanted the ice cream. And I think at that young age, I started to maybe get that a little bit, that I was punishing myself because I was mad at my dad. I don't want your gift of ice cream, because I was mad. And so I think some of this carries on, is that if we just looked at it, we think we're punishing them, or whatever, but we're punishing ourselves. I mean, who are we to punish them? We're going without. We're walking around without an open heart. Like, that's insanity, absolute insanity, So I just have it just like, to me, it's like, whoa, and one of the metaphors I like is really neat, is that you are this beautiful flower, and you want to come into the world, and you've got all the colors, and you're absolutely gorgeous, right? But you say, oh, it's raining out, I'm not going to bloom today. Oh, this is happening, I'm not going to bloom today. Oh, this happened. And we have all these conditions, and who's suffering? This gorgeous flower that was supposed to bloom in the world, and just whatever purpose there was for it, is absolutely denying themselves because that condition out there, like, who are we to do that? It's just insanity at its finest. Who do we think we are? Why would we do that? So that's how I would approach women. It's not for the other person. This is your right. This is your birthright. No matter what goes on, you bloom and be absolutely glorious for who you are. Absolutely glorious.
I found it very strange myself. And that's exactly what my point of view was, is that you're punishing yourself in hopes that the other person is going to feel punished, right? But if you're no longer with them, they don't even know what you're doing, essentially, right?
And even if they feel punished, you want to start this whole thing of like, you don't do this, I'll take off my arm. Oh, I'm going to cut off my leg, because you didn't wash the dishes. Like, it gets insane. It gets absolutely insane. Like, let it go, peoples. And that's where we just let people are going to do what people do. And you have a choice. If you like it, hang out. And if you don't, move away. Where do we have to punish people because you're not being the way I need you to be? Like,
That's
this
the
is
key,
where
right? Like, you're
it
not
totally
being
is.
you the way that you want me to be. Whereas it can just be simple as, hey, this person doesn't fulfill me anymore. Let me move on. But you're going to stay in it and say, you know what, Melanie, I'm not going to eat today
And the
because I'm
truth
so
is,
upset at you.
if you go back to the cake and the cherry on, nobody is there to fulfill you. I want women and men to be fulfilled themselves. Okay. This person, and when you are that way, you let a lot of those little things go. They're not there to fulfill you. A real partnership, you got two fulfilled people that are sharing a life together. It's you're not there to fulfill me. If you are, then I'm going to be terrified of you all the time at a deeper unconscious level, because it's like a baby with a bottle. If you're my bottle and you are not there when I need you, or you can leave me, or you might not be there, I am constantly going to be afraid. And in that fear, I will bring up all my little things that I can do to manipulate, to get you, because you are my bottle. So no, no, no. They're not there to fulfill you. They can be there to enhance, they can be there to support you, they can be there for anything else, but not to fulfill you. Otherwise, there's a price to pay for that. There's going to be an underline, and you're not willing to let go, because there's going to be things like, there's going to be death, there's going to be illness, there's going to be a lot of things that happen. And, when you're young, you don't think about that. But when you're my age, I mean, one of us is going to die in my partnership. One of us is going to go before the other. But if I'm so afraid, and oh my God, I can't live without you, and you fulfilled me, I'm not going to survive. So no, I don't want people, I want them to be so full, and have a partner that just enhances them and supports them and nurtures them in a way that they can be more fuller who they are, not because of me in that way.